Okay, today I want to talk about something that happens to just about every writer. And before I've talked about uh, listening to your characters and allowing them to take action and speak dialogue that you hadn't heard before. And today I want to talk about what happens when your characters go rogue and just try to take over your story. Um, You create a strong, coherent character that has enough interest for you to include them in your story. This is any character that you create, all right? And then, whoa, they do more. They take action and run with the story. They barge into scenes. They interrupt dialogue. And as a result, the characters and the storyline get bumped. Um, So think of it first as a good problem because a rogue character is a sign of your ability to create a strong character. So don't be discouraged. Strong characters are a good problem. A rogue character is a sign of your character development success as a writer. Strong characters have a well defined personality and a good set of goals and motivations and passions, and they have coherence and individuality that make them compelling to you and to your reader. You understand the character and can plan what they're going to do, and you understand what they will need and how they will react in certain situations, and you understand what they want and what they will do to achieve their goal. Oh, all good things, right? So let's talk about three reasons that characters go rogue. Um, one reason that characters bump the storyline is strong goals and strong motivations. And when you understand your character's motivation to reach a goal, they will act to reach that goal through strong motivations. And as you write, the motivations are first in your mind, and you follow those motivations, and the character acts in ways prompted by the motivation, but not according to your storyline. The second reason characters take over the story is they are more strongly defined than the protagonist. This can happen if the protagonist or another character is there to fill a plot role but is not heavily developed, and the story is ruled by the plot, and the character's essence and motivations are not strong. This is especially important for your sleuth detective. Basically, the stronger characters push the weaker ones aside, and beginning mystery writers may find this happening when they have a detective to solve the mystery, but have not developed a deep three-dimensional sleuth. Okay, and then the third reason characters take charge is that your plot is weak. And as a writer, you don't know where your story's going, and neither do your characters. Um, And if you don't have a strong enough plot line, the strong character will take over to lead the story in their direction. And this rogue action usually appears in the first draft, especially for pantsers. And your interest goes with the characters and strays from the storyline. Okay, so what are some steps that you can take to align your characters and the story? Remember, mystery readers come for the plot, but they stay for the characters. So you want lively characters. So when you feel a character is taking over, the first step is to stop writing. Okay, then evaluate why the character is bumping your storyline. Is it a weak plot? Or is your protagonist not up to snuff as a character? Those are just examples, but really evaluate why the character is bumping your storyline. Okay, one thing you can do is a character development revamp. You can go back to your character development and work on your main characters. I really encourage you if you feel like secondary characters are getting out of control. So give your main characters strong story goals that will drive them through the story and examine their deep motivations. For example, not just catch the killer in the mystery for your sleuth, but how catching the killer fits with their values and life goals. And be sure to examine the rogue character's background as well. They may be taking over because you're trying to figure out their motivations on the fly because you didn't know enough about them as you were writing. So sharpen those character goals, motivations, and passions, and make sure you understand the character, what makes them tick and what's driving them, and make sure the goal is clear and specific, but quite hard to get, right? And you want to make sure their desire for it is very strong. It's not just cause, that they really, really, really want to reach their goal. And that way you'll make them more interesting and they can take their fair share of the storyline. Another thing you can do is to take a good look at your storyline and beef it up. And so if what your main character is doing seems a bit dull, spice it up, add more conflict, make sure the stakes get higher as the story progresses, and brainstorm some twists, and then work them into your protagonist's goals, motivation, and passion. I was going to go back to your character because this is this is what happens when other characters start taking over. So a strong storyline gives your main characters things to do, and it won't be so easy for another character to derail the story. Another thing you can do is to actually accommodate the rogue character. If your running wild character is strong, give them a subplot. Of course, it needs to align with the main storyline, but weave their subplot into the main story. You've just added another dimension to your story. Um, Make sure the plot line and the character arc of the subplot are strong and deserving of a place in your main story. Another thing you can do is put that character aside and think about them for a future story. They may not need a strong place in this particular story, but you may want to save all these characters' strong motivations and goals and actions to bring them up in another book. You can pull back the reins on this rogue character in this story and save all the dimensions and goals and motivations for another story featuring this character. You can even feature them as a protagonist if they're really that strong. And then in the future, you'll have ample opportunity to work on this character. Okay, one final thing to do is what I call the hard call rewrite. In this case, you make the road character the protagonist and build the story around their goals and motivations. This is really hard to do, and I think when a character goes rogue, it's much easier to give them a place in another story. I call it the hard call because essentially you're creating a whole new story. The plot line will change around the new character story arc, and this option should only be considered when you've tried the other solutions because you're tearing up a lot of work that you've already done. You're essentially starting over. So it's kind of a last ditch way to deal with a rogue character. Anyway, thinking about all these ways to control your rogue characters, play with your strengths. Congratulate yourself on creating a strong character when you sense a character is taking over your story. It's always good to have strong characters. And then stop to evaluate what causes the character to derail your story and work through the causes to arrive at the best solution for your story. This character may suddenly be a main supporting character in this current story that you're working on. It just depends on your story and what that character is doing. So make sure that you bolster your main character, especially the protagonist and the antagonist, that hidden villain, um, and make sure your storyline is robust. So, up the stakes, bring your rogue character in line with the other characters, and you'll transform your rogue character into the rightful place in your story. Okay, I hope that helps. I know that it's always good to listen to your characters, because as you're writing and the characters start doing things, your main characters, they usually come up with some pretty good ideas for what you should do in a particular scene and what they should say and how they should act. Um, but sometimes characters do try to take over the story. So go through these actions if you feel like a supporting character is trying to take over the story. All right, thank you. Keep writing, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll see you next week.